Start by the example algorithm that we talked about last time. Recall that the algorithm was about converting temperature from Celsius to Fahrenheit. The step 1 of the algorithm was to get the input temperature in Celsius. Imagine that the input temperature is 20 degrees Celsius. In step 2, we are going to get the input temperature and multiply it by 9. In step 3, we divide the result of step 2 by 5, which is 180 divided by 5. And in step 4, we are going to add 32 to the result. Now 180 divided by 5 is 36, and we are going to add 32 to it. And then in the last step, we are going to show the result of step 4, which in this case would be 68. Now imagine that each step of the algorithm has to be performed by a different person, and these people cannot talk to each other, and the only way they can communicate is through a piece of paper. So person 1 gets the input temperature. In this case, let's imagine it is 20, and then it's supposed to pass it to person number 2 so it can be multiplied by 9. In order to do so, person 1 goes and gets a scratch paper, writes the value of 20. However, to pass this to person number 2, we need to give it a name so we can refer to it. So let's imagine we give it a name like A. A is not a particular name. You can call it anything else that you want. It's just a name which is given to 20. So A is associated with 20, A is a name, and 20 is the value of it. And in computer programming, we write it as A equal sign 20. I should emphasize that this statement does not mean that A is equal 20. It simply means that A is an identifier which is associated with the value of 20. In technical term, we call A an identifier. Now we ask person 2 to go into the scratch paper and get the value which is associated with the identifier A and multiply it times 9. And of course, the result is 180. In order to refer to this value, we should give it a name. Let's give it the name B. Again, B is not a particular name. I could have called it anything. This is just for simplicity. I called it B. B is associated with 180, and the statement that we are going to write is B equal sign A times 9. Let's look at this statement a little closer. What this statement says to the person 2 or to the computer is to calculate the right side of the equal sign. To do so, you have to go get the value which is associated with the identifier A and multiply it times 9. Then put the resulting value in the scratch paper and call it B. That's all there is. Again, B is not equal to 180, it's only associated with it. Now person 3 needs to get the result of step 2 and divide it by 5. And this is how you would say it. This statement says to the person 3 that go to the scratch paper, get the value which is associated with identifier B, divide it by 5, and then put the result into the scratch paper and associate it with another identifier, in this case C. With the same token, person 4 is supposed to get the result of step 3 and add 32 to it, and this is how we'll say it. Last, person 5 is supposed to show the result of step 4, and this is how we say it. Show the value of D. Basically, in computer programming, this is how we'll say it. It says print the value which is associated with the identifier D. Again, I should emphasize that A, B, C, and D are identifiers which are associated with the numerical values of 20, 180, 36, and 68. At this point, you may ask, what does all of this have to do with Python and programming? This is a very good question. Think of the persons which are involved in this algorithm as the brain of a computer, which is called the CPU. Also remember that the definition of a program is a set of instructions given to a computer. Think of instructions which are given to each person as one line of a program. So in this case, the set of all the 5 instructions constitute a program. Also think of the scratch paper as the memory of the computer and each of the locations which hold the value as a variable. So congratulations, you actually wrote your first program by converting an algorithm into a Python program.